What's happening, team? Liam from Lazarus Personal Training, and in this video I'm going to talk about my least favourite member of the Shield, Roman Reigns. And I'm going to get a smack round the back of the head for saying that. Ella's going to completely whoop me. I don't care. To go into a couple of plugs, if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram. I am Lazarus_PT. It's the best place to get in contact with me if you have any questions, and also you just get to see my daily day-to-day life. Also, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It all helps that good algorithm stuff. I've just finished at the gym, which means that I'm a little bit sweaty, I'm a little bit all over the place, and I've still got pre-workout in my system. So if I'm talking at a faster rate, if I'm going off on tangents, that is exactly why. This point about Roman Reigns came up a couple of weeks ago when on his Instagram he posted a video of him doing some lateral raises, and on his coach's Instagram posted a picture of him posing, which sort of begged the question, or sort of raised the question, what is Roman Reigns doing in his off time to gain this size, and is he using anything? That seemed to be a bit of a point of contention that came up. It's a video that I wanted to do around that point, but things like the gym reopening came up, so I wanted that to take more precedent because I knew that would be more helpful. However, as a topic for us as wrestlers, as a topic for us as people that are interested in health and fitness, I think it's an interesting point to look at. This is pretty much a complete rip-off of Coach Greg's Natty or Not videos. If you're not following Coach Greg, I'm not saying his surname because I'm pretty sure I would butcher it, Duchet, I believe. Basically, go and look up Coach Greg on YouTube. His videos are really informative. He puts out some really good content, and this is pretty much just a rip on his videos, but I'm not doing him any justice. He is very good. So looking at Roman Reigns, if we go into his history a little bit, he's 35, he's of Samoan descent, he's a professional wrestler, obviously, but before that point he was an American football player through high school, through college, and then he played professionally in the CFL for the Edmonton Eskimos. The Eskimos. What a terrible name that is. Like, sometimes just avoid alliteration. So with that, if we're looking at his genetic gene pool, Samoans are big dudes. You just have to look at the lineage of Samoans to see that they are big, bulky dudes. If we're looking down the line, you've got to look at The Rock, and then you look at Rikishi, who is a bigger dude. You look at Yokozuna, who's a bigger dude. While the Usos don't particularly look it, they are quite stocky in size. You go to the Head Shrinkers, and they are all big guys, but not particularly the leanest guys in the world. And I think if we're looking at PEDs and we're looking at anabolics, The Rock is lean for a reason. However, if we're looking at the majority of the Samoans, they are muscular, but they are also holding a little bit of extra body fat, which comes into a point later on. Also, played American football. American football players tend to be big, they tend to be stocky, just due to the nature of the sport. I definitely think there's a correlation between playing physical impact sports and extra availability of testosterone at a teenage year that boost that. There's a reason why rugby players tend to be big and tend to be stocky. There's a reason why American football players tend to be big, tend to be stocky. There's a reason why soccer players tend to be a little bit leaner, and I do think it comes into that. So we also need to look at that in terms of Roman Reigns' mass and his size. With his history out of the way, one of the first things that I did when looking at Roman Reigns was I just went onto Google Images. I typed in Roman Reigns 2010, 2011, 2012, and I was just looking at how his shape sort of changed, if it did change at all through his time. And overall, it doesn't really change that much. I had to look at his shoulder mass, really, mostly because most of his time in the WWE has been spent wearing a bodysuit. But also, when we're looking at PEDs, when we're looking at anabolics, when we're looking at extra substances that go into the body, shoulder mass and shoulder definition and a capped, rounded shoulder often comes into excess stuff in the body, especially when they are at a bigger size. If you look at bodybuilders and how rounded their shoulders are, there's a reason behind that, whereas when we're natural, sometimes that's a lot harder to achieve. So it's worth looking at that when we're looking at people that we aspire to be. So Roman Reigns, in terms of his shape and his size, doesn't change that much. 2014, 2015, there's definitely a little bit of a change that comes in. Like, he definitely gets a little bit bigger in that shoulder area. 2018, he has a drop off, he looks a little bit flatter, and then going into 2019, coming into 2020, he sort of regains the size that he once had. So in 2016, if I look at my notes and make sure that's correct, he had a wellness policy violation. However, when that comes around, a lot of people instantly go gear. But what it seems to be from the research that I did is that it's more based around some sort of amphetamine use, weed, the good kush, but this is the dollar store. How good can it be? Memes. So it actually seems to be more based around that than it does around gear. And also, when we're looking at top tier guys, and this is just stuff that I've come across on the grapevine, all that sort of stuff, there are ways and means around drug policies across the board in all sports. So with that, if you have more money and you can get different stuff, they tend to not sit in the system. Whereas if you aren't making as much money, you don't have access to that sort of stuff, you might be taking things that are more visible on a drug test. So it's not to say that he never has done, but it's not to say that he has done as well. But there was a wellness policy violation that came in. So overall, do I think that Roman Reigns has used gear in the past? Maybe not. Not to completely knock it out of the park and say he definitely hasn't, but I think his gene pool helps him. I think his history of sport helps him. And also, I think that his years through the industry, there's not been a super amount of change. So with a decent bit of training, I do think that his shoulders could have got a bit bigger. The drop off in 2018 was due to his leukemia reappearing again. So with that, if his leukemia has reappeared, he's going to look flatter because he's probably looking after his internal health rather than thinking about keeping muscle mass on his body. Once he has recovered from that, 2019, 2020, again, he increases. So I think there's reasons behind his increase and his dip. So to look at his time now, in the post he tags Y3T, which is the program from his coach, who is Neil Hill, who's also known as Neil Yoda Hill. Being completely honest, I filmed this before and I said like he's a well-known coach, but actually I didn't know who he was. And that is more down to my circles of influence than it is discrediting him. He's got 200,000 followers on Instagram. He's coached some high-level bodybuilders. Flex Lewis, if I've said his name correctly. Again, I'm looking at my notes for this. Yeah, Flex Lewis is a 7-time Mr. Olympia. Neil Hill knows his stuff. His program, Y3T, in terms of doing a bit of research around it, is a program where you hit a heavy week to go into a moderate week, to go into a light week, with reps changing around that. So in your heavy week, you would do less reps. On the medium week, you would be in like a 8 to 12 range. And in your higher week, on your lower weight week, you would be doing higher reps. So we're looking 15 plus on that. Now, a quote from the website about this program, I'm going to read you this. This program hits both your fast and slow twitch muscle fibers and also focuses on stretching the fascia, connective tissue fibers that wrap around the muscle. The fascia can restrict growth of your muscles by limiting the amount of room that's available for new muscle growth. Stretching your fascia with Y3T can help increase your muscle growth potential. Science, right? It's talking about fascia tissue. Like, that's some like in-depth knowledge. But if I'm being completely honest on that, his programming doesn't do that. All hypertrophy training inflames the muscle, it makes the muscle bigger. So you could argue that there is a stretch going on in that. What his program does is allows some recovery from the heavy weight to then go medium weight, keep working, light weight, keep working, back into the heavier weight. If we're looking at a prolonged training life, then actually that's quite a good system to use. Is it revolutionary? No. I know people that have used it in the past. It's nothing particularly new. Is it a different way of looking at training when often we can be like, I'm going to do 4 to 6 weeks of heavy strength training? Yeah, absolutely. To cycle that through does make sense, especially for someone like Roman Reigns, who's 35, who's probably been training his entire life. It's nice to have a bit of a different stimulus in there. But I don't think that that is the sole reason for him looking bigger. I think the reason for Roman Reigns looking bigger, looking more jacked, are the less glamorous things than a cool training program. Because Roman Reigns is at home, he will have a better nutrition cycle. He will have complete control over what he's eating day to day. He will also have better sleep control. Yes, he's got newborn twins. Yes, he's got his other girl, so he's got 3 kids. There's a lot of responsibility to go in there. But I am willing to bet that actually his sleep patterns are probably better now than they were when he's out on the road. He's going into a different hotel room every night. He's having to travel across the country. His time zones are probably all over the place. Now he can stay in one place, in one bed, and have some sort of routine. So I'm willing to bet his sleep patterns are a lot better. And also, he's probably into a routine of being at a gym. He goes to one gym where he knows the weights, where he knows the setup, and from traveling around myself, from going to different gyms, I can tell you to stay in one gym for a training cycle is way more productive than it is to jump from gym to gym to gym, because they might have a different setup. You might not be able to superset the thing that you usually superset. The machine just might sit a little bit differently. So to have set routines on his nutrition, his sleep, and his exercise will massively help. And I think that is more what has gained him this extra size, extra leanness, whatever you want to call it, rather than either the training program or any sort of like PEDs that might come into his body. I think the other factor that's worth noting, and probably the most important bit out of this, is that the video is literally mid-set. If you were to take a photo or a video of me doing dumbbell lateral raises, my shoulders would look more pumped up than they do when I'm not doing them, because the muscle has blood in it. It is flowing through it. The muscle is contracting. It is gonna look bigger. The photo that Neil Hill posts is in the gym. It's probably directly after that set. There is no other time that Roman Reigns will look bigger, more lean, more flexed than he will do at the gym. If we're looking at bodybuilders and photo shoots and anything like that, the people that are doing those things are pumped up going into those photos. We see them at their peak condition because they have the most pump on. They're not taking photos. Nobody's stepping up onto a bodybuilding stage flat, who's probably got a belly full of food, who hasn't got a pump on. They're not going to do that. They're going to get on stage when they're at the leanest, without food in their stomach, with a pump on, so they look at their biggest. The same goes for photo shoots. So with that, we need to recognize that this is a snapshot of Roman Reigns mid-set. This isn't Roman Reigns where he's been on the road for 4 days, where he might have got one training session in, where he might be a little bit low on his sleep, where he's stressed out, fatigued, and he is having to wrestle every single night. This is Roman Reigns where he is fully recovered, where he's probably got a good sleep schedule going on, where his nutrition's on point, where he's able to train same time consistently, where he's hit a program. This is probably his last set on the exercise. He's looking at his best. So, and this is something to take away whenever we're looking at social media. We cannot compare ourselves to someone else when their circumstances are completely different from our circumstances. So do I think that Roman Reigns is using any sort of PEDs in his time away from the WWE? No, probably not. He doesn't look that much bigger. He's got a good pump on, but it's not astounding. He's a very similar size to what he has been through the years. He's probably got his nutrition in place, got his sleep in place, got his training in place. He's following this program. Neil Hill obviously knows his stuff. He's coached some top level bodybuilders. So he's in the right environment to look bigger and to look more jacked. So we can't just instantly jump on him and be like, Gear, he's on the PEDs, he's on the anabolics. No, we can't do that because it's not right. It's not that. Let's say Michael Cole, for example, goes from looking like he did at WrestleMania to being jacked as balls. Well, there, we might go, okay, anabolics are coming into play there. So for us as British wrestlers, British wrestling trainees, people that aspire to look like Roman Reigns because we like his size, a couple of things that we probably need to take into consideration looking at that and also looking at ourselves. So Roman Reigns is out on the road a lot. At home though, he's got his sleep in place. He's probably got his nutrition in place. He's probably got his training schedule in place. And those three things are things that you can put in play right now. Are you getting the best sleep possible? Is your nutrition exactly where you need it to be? Do you have a set routine when it comes to being in the gym? If you don't, then doing those things is going to help you achieve your goals no matter what. And that comes for everybody. Whether you are looking to gain size to be bigger, whether you are looking to get a little bit leaner, whether you just want to make a bit of a body change, whether you want to feel stronger, faster, more athletic. If you get your sleep at a good point, if your nutrition is on point and you are eating the right things, example, you're eating more nutrient dense food and you're hitting your calorie target rather than it just being, I'll eat as and when. And are you getting a constant training cycle in where you have adaptation, where you have things to aim for, where you have a rotation of exercises and rep schemes, or even just a case of just going into the gym on a regular basis 3-4 times a week. If you're getting those things in, it's not to say that you're going to look like Roman Reigns unless you are Samoan and you've played American football and you have his genes, but at least we can go towards achieving whatever our goals are. For Roman Reigns, his goal is probably to get a little bit bigger, to feel a little bit better in his body, and to give him some focus in this off time. So credit to him, he's looking good. He's still not my favourite member of the Shield, but he's done a cracking job. I hope his family are all well during this time. And when he comes back to the WWE, no doubt people are going to complain because Roman Reigns is back in the WWE. I hope that you found this video informative. I hope that I've not waffled on for too long. If you've liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and also if you aren't already, follow me on Instagram. I've been Liam from Lazarus Personal Training, and I will see you next time.